Hi guys! I'm recording in the sunlight for a change. I hope you appreciate the slight variation in atmosphere and the dirty hair. We're gonna ignore that. There are only 2 weeks left in the class, most amazingly. And as you all may have seen, you actually only have a small handful of assignments left. You have the final draft of writing Project 4 after the peer reviews. Some discussion on the discussion board, and then a reflective essay, and I believe that's it. So that's kind of wild. And as you all may have seen, I have made my way through your outlines, and I'm going to be making my way through writing Project 4 shortly. Huge congratulations to you, if I haven't said so just yet, to those of you who have made it this far, having tried the assignments, even if you didn't do super well on them. I have truly seen improvements in the writing of every single person in this class, and it's really inspiring and really exciting. With no exceptions, is what I meant to add to that. So this is my final video to you guys. And I just wanted to say a few things about your final major writing assignment coming up, writing Project 4, and about this class and about writing in general. Well, I have your attention, maybe. I've read all of your drafts for writing Project 4, and I've made a list of common issues that I see occurring. I want to address those issues here in this video, even though I will also be putting comments on your drafts once everyone has completed the peer reviews for writing Project 4. One thing I'm noticing in your drafts is that several of you are missing a strong, clear thesis. It's not that you don't have one, it's that it's not strong, it's not clear, or it's not clear where it is. You all need a clear statement, preferably in the introduction of the paper, that states in strong opinion language that is very specific exactly what you think about your topic. Some of you guys are either using language that is too vague, or you're just implying your thesis instead of just stating it outright. There are others who kind of delay their thesis until later in the paper, and what I think might be happening here is that you guys are thinking of paper writing as linear, happening in a line, start to finish, when you want to think of your paper more as like a whole animal, a whole object, a collection or a web of ideas that connect to one another and support your thesis. The thesis is, what did I even write here? The thesis is important. I have support import. That doesn't make any sense. The thesis is important because it governs everything that happens in your paper. The reason for your paper's existence is to defend that single idea, that thesis, through main points and then research that back up those main points. So examine your paper carefully and ask yourself if your thesis or any other of your other points need stronger wording or reorganization. As for your introductions in general, I would like for you all to think of them as the framework for your paper, or the place to lay the groundwork. That's the place to lay down what's going to be discussed and why what you're discussing is important. If the intro isn't specific or it doesn't contain your thesis, your whole paper might feel floppy and hard to follow. Some of you guys need to tighten up those introductions. So take a look at yours, see if it needs some tightening up. Specific language is something that's super key, not just in your introductions, but throughout the entire paper. And not just for this paper, but for anything you will ever write, anything you'll ever do, anything you'll ever say. Specificity, having a target that you're trying to reach, is key. The opposite of specific language would be vague language. Or unclear language. And while we use it all the time in speech, it has no place in a paper because readers only see in the paper what is put in front of them by you, the author, through language. I can tell someone, for example, in speech, in conversation, that I like this, and I can hold up the thing, and that person, the target of that statement, will know what the thing is. It's physical, the context is physical. In writing, of course, you can't point to physical objects or indicate. You really only have your language. So you have to use language carefully. That's why language must be as specific as possible in writing. One way to help think about this is to think about nouns. Remember, these are people, places, things, or ideas. Some nouns are more abstract or vague than others, while some are more concrete. You guys are shooting as much as possible for more concrete nouns, or at least for abstract nouns that have descriptive adjectives in front of them. You don't, for example, just want to say people in your paper, because people could mean anybody, or schools. I want to know what kind of people. I want to know what kind of schools. If you say standards, I want to know what standard you're referring to. Everything's got standards pretty much, so you could be talking about any standards in this world. Often words like this and it are also red flags for vague language. They rarely ever do the work that you're hoping they'll do. They don't do any work at all, really. You usually have to name specifically the thing that this or it is supposed to be referring to. You have to take your readers by the hand and help them see exactly what you see. It's not hand holding, it's guiding them to see the ideas that are in your head. And if the problem is that you don't know what's in your head, like you don't know exactly what to think, then that is your cue that you need to spend some more time in front of the paper, trying to find the right words, trying to find the thing that it is that you want to say. If it still doesn't come to you, spend more time doing and making sense of your research. I would like for everybody in this class, no matter who you are, how you do on your draft, I would like for everybody in this class to try combing through your paper, like a paragraph a day, for language and ideas that could be more specific. Just try it. I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I think you'll be surprised at what you discover. In these rough drafts, I'm also noticing some disorganization. This is super normal, so don't feel bad if you come to find out your paper is disorganized. So I want to say a word on that. It helps to be organized if you can think about your paper in the right way. If you think about your paper again as linear, as start to finish, it's going to feel really hard knowing how to organize it. But if you think of a paragraph as its own compartment, as this place where something specific is going to happen, that might help. So if a paragraph is a compartment, that sole compartment, or that compartment's sole purpose, rather, is to defend the thesis, is to be like one more brick that holds it up. Each paragraph should make a new point, should be its own little compartment with its own little point, and with research that backs up that point. So you want to state your point at the beginning of the paragraph and talk about only that point. And you want to check your paragraphs to make sure you aren't making multiple points in each paragraph. And you also want to try to re-examine paragraphs to see if you lost the thread of your original point in that paragraph somewhere, and you need to reconnect to it. In a paragraph, each idea should connect to the one before it, so that one idea introduces another and explains or builds upon the one before it. This is called logical progression of ideas. One idea is supposed to logically flow from another. Specific language helps with this. So to help you guys a bit more with organization, I know you all have already done an outline. This is going to be optional, but on Monday I'm going to be posting a more visual outline that's like spatial rather than just writing. That has helped many of my students, this outline has, in my face-to-face classes, to think about their papers on a more holistic, a more overall level. As far as your research goes, practically everybody in the class has found some good, credible research, so that's really exciting. But not everybody's using it. This is not good. Without showing your research through quotes and in-text citations, you actually don't have a research paper. So every point you make that doesn't have research in it, or next to it in that same paragraph, is actually like a totally moot point, because it's not being backed up by research. That's the point of doing the research, is to say, all right, I'm not an expert in this field, but this guy or this girl or this organization, they are experts. And here's what they say about it. So without those citations, without that research, you don't have a research paper. You just have a lot of thoughts about stuff. And And, you don't need a college degree to do that. You could just go down the street and talk to somebody about your feelings, right? So you need that research. Each paragraph, apart from the intro and the conclusion, needs to have research in it. And it needs to support specifically the main point that you're making. Now, you don't have to use it exactly to support a main point. You can use research as something to work against, like you can use research because you disagree with it and you want to discuss why, or you could just lay some groundwork for what you do want to discuss. You want to make sure, too, that you have not put your research into the paper in vain. If you have not made it explicit how that research connects to your main point and to your thesis, you have not fully made your point. No idea should go unexplained. No research should go undiscussed. That's like an eternal rule for paper writing, or for writing in general, or for any kind of communication. You want to fully explain your ideas as much as possible. That comes with time. So those were some overall conceptual things to think about. Now I'm going to hit on a couple more local grammatical things, and I'm going to try to be brief because I'm running out of time. First, I'll say that you guys all want to proofread your work. That is, read back over your work and change grammatical errors as much as possible. Especially typos. A lot of you guys have them. Or wording that you feel unsure about. Like if you come across something and you're like, that sounds weird. That's your mind's telling you something is weird and to fix it. My best advice for you guys when it comes to revising it all is to try working paragraph by paragraph. Try to work on local grammatical issues paragraph by paragraph, one paragraph a day. It's a pretty good rule, I think, and it makes it manageable. First, when you're editing a paragraph, you want to look for local grammatical stuff, checking word choice and whatnot, the little things, and then work on larger things like the strength of your point, your research, how it connects to your thesis. So on a grammatical level, some of the errors I'm seeing are, and I'll say a word or two about each of them, errors with commas, semicolons, citation, apostrophes, and verb tense. I'll be brief. Commas are used between independent complete sentences and when you're describing something off to the side. So I love coffee, comma, and I love tea. That comma makes sense there because I love tea is a sentence all by itself. But if you say I love comma, I do, but tired. I love coffee and tea. A comma is not needed there before the and because tea is not a complete sentence. They're also for describing something off to the side. So if you want to describe something about this chick, Gina, you would say, Gina, who should really know better, baked without salt. That who should really know better is like a side comment about her that you would set off with a comma or a pair of commas. So those are main things that commas are used for. You also put them after certain words like however, nevertheless. You use them in a list. But that's mainly where I see you guys misusing them, is putting them between ideas when the second idea is actually not a complete sentence. Semicolons, that's the dot with a comma underneath it. Those are used to separate complete sentences that are actually still related. It's like a connector. I call a semicolon a marriage between a period and a comma because a period ends a complete sentence, but then a comma continues it because the ideas are related. So you can think of them in that way. They're also used to separate super long phrases that are related to each other. Otherwise, if you want to use a semicolon, that's how you do that. But if you're trying to introduce something, you're actually not going to use a semicolon, bump. You're going to use a colon, a dot on top of a dot. Like, I have a few things I have to tell you, colon, and then you list the things. It's like a drum roll. It's like a punctuation drum roll. With citation, make sure you're putting the author's last name in parentheses if you have it. If you don't have it, remember that organizations are authors too, so you can put the organization as the author. If you guys don't have that, some of you all have seemed in the past to be unsure of what goes in there. I get that. If you don't have the author or an organization, you put, sorry, I'm receiving a call and I'm reading from the script as I'm talking to you guys. All right. It's my husband. He's probably fine. Let's see, lost my place. With citations, just if you don't have an author, put an article or a web page in quotation marks in parentheses. If you have a source and your works cited, that means you are using it somewhere in your paper. If you have a source in your paper, that means it's got to show up in your works cited. Don't miss one or the other. They have to come up in both places. Okay, so you have to be really, really careful about that. It's technically plagiarism. If you say that you're using a source in your works cited and you're not, or if you use the source in your paper and then you don't put it in works cited. I know it's like, honestly, it's laziness, but I don't think you guys understand that it's like serious laziness. Like there's some things you don't want to be lazy about, like turning off the burner on the stove. You know, there are some things that you can stand to be more lazy about, like maybe not brushing your teeth one time or several. I'd leave that up to you. Like doing citations carefully is like a turning the burner off kind of thing, or on, and then turning it off again. Apostrophes. With apostrophes, you guys are missing them. It's kind of a common error, and it's not a huge deal, but it's a deal. With apostrophes, that guy that goes before an S or something, you're showing possession or ownership. If something ends in S and it belongs to someone or something, even if that someone or something is not alive, you still must use an apostrophe. So remember that if something belongs to one thing, it goes apostrophe S, and if something belongs to more than one thing or person, then it's S and then the apostrophe. Exceptions would be things that are already plural, like women, like women's baseball goes apostrophe S after women. Children, as in children's lunches, the apostrophe S would be in children's. As far as verbs go, academic papers are typically written in the present tense, meaning all the verbs in that paper are in the present. Wins, says, has, goes, divides, and not in the past, like won, said, had, went, divided. Verbs are only in the past in papers when you are telling a story about something that happened in the past. Be careful not to switch between the past and present because it's distracting for readers and it just looks untidy. You guys may be noticing I'm doing my longest spiel on grammar ever, and I'm now at like minute 17 and a half. I kind of knew that would happen. Your question may be like, why the last video and not the first one? All along, I have not wanted to give you guys the impression that grammar is everything. A lot of people who are insecure about their writing tell me, oh, I need you to look at my grammar. Or I feel like if I fix my grammar, I'll be fine. It's just not true. Grammar is not everything. Good ideas that are well organized and well supported, that's everything. Good grammar and punctuation is just like the icing on the cake. It makes people take you more seriously. They may take a look at you more carefully because they make you look more careful, like these grammar and punctuation skills. And you know, sometimes the only difference between two job applicants who are like dressed nicely for the job, all tidy and whatnot, they did really well in college, you know, in that one online writing class, and now they're sitting in like in an office waiting for a job interview. Sometimes the only difference between those two applicants is that one knows how to use a semicolon and the other doesn't. You know, people find semicolon usage impressive, believe it or not. So if you're serious about knocking this paper out of the damn park, you want to take my advice, at least on everything else I've said, and then if you really want to make the paper as polished as possible, do the grammar thing, like now and forever. Try to find little ways every day to improve your grammar. Last minute things, your titles. You can have a little fun, like a lot of you guys are in your titles, but you want to try to make them about what is happening in your papers. So what I'm suggesting is, I think I've suggested this before, that you have two parts. The first one being fun or catchy or interesting or like a common phrase that people use, and then a colon, and then a more explanatory part of of your title. And I'll give you some examples here from Harper's Magazine, which if you guys think like the essay doesn't really exist, you don't really write essays out of college, Harper's would prove you wrong. The essay is still very much alive. Here we go. Here's one example. There we go. Note to self. The lyric essays, convenient fictions. So note to self is a common phrase. This explains it. You don't see a colon there, but if I were to write the title of that article or that essay out in a paper, I would use a colon between those. Here's another one. Front runner. Marine Le Pen's campaign to make France great again. So we know that phrase, front runner. We've heard it before, at least it rings a bell to us. And then the second part tells us exactly what's going to be in that essay or in that article. Okay. You know, you can get, I was going to say really quickly, you can get a little bit playful if you want to with the first part, but definitely make sure the second part is serious and it is about your thesis. Okay. Last thing, if you have a quote over 3 lines, please Google something for me. If you have a quote over 3 lines, Google long quotation MLA. The first link you see should be Al Purdue. Click on that and scroll halfway down and please read it. That is a special way of formatting long quotations. There's a special way to do it. Don't have too many of these. My recommendation in a paper this short is not more than 2. You have more than 2 of these, and what you have is a paper that looks padded. It looks like you put that many long quotations in there just to take up space. It doesn't look too hot. You don't want to do it. It's cheating in such a short paper, like putting on several pairs of underpants because you know you're going to get a spanking. You should just take the sting, you know, take it. Okay. I've gone way over time, but it's the last video. Maybe you'll forgive me. Maybe you'll watch the entirety of this thing, or at least you'll read the video script. So that's all I have for you guys on Writing Project 4. Like I said, I'll be putting in a few comments for you after your peers have done so, because I want you to listen to their ideas and not just mine. I actually will not, this is important, I'll announce it again, I will not be putting comments on the very final draft of your papers, just because I'm always in a time crunch around that time, that last week of classes. I'll be grading a lot of papers right around then. It's research paper season. And I'll be preparing for finals in my face-to-face classes. Also, honestly, I find that most students are not really interested in receiving those comments. And they don't plan to do anything with them. They really just want to know how they did with their paper and move on with their lives. If, though, you are one of those people who just really like getting the comments, or you know, and or you're going to think about them going forth into the world, then please email me and let me know that you do want those comments, or write in the comment section of your submission of the final draft to let me know that you do want to receive those comments, that you like receiving them. I will be sincerely happy to do that for you if you ask for them. Otherwise, if you don't ask, then I feel like I'm just thrusting them upon you. You're not going to do anything with them, and then I'm wasting precious time when I could be like romping in the sunshine or something. Okay, now the sentimental note. I do gain a lot from working with my students every time, every semester, every class, whether it's face-to-face or online. I've gained a lot from interacting with you guys and from reading your writing. I feel like through combing through your ideas, I somehow get to know you some. And it's very sincerely been my privilege to do so with you all. This is true whether your papers were slamming. This is true whether they weren't great. I still felt like I got, like, you shared a part of me. You shared a part of yourself with me. I'm ruining the sentimental thing, but it's okay. You know what I mean. Sentimentality. As you guys go forward in your degrees and in your careers, I hope that you carry something from this class with you. Those who are able to use language effectively, to mold it, to say exactly what they want to say, those are the people who have power. They get what they want. I understand money is power and whatnot, but so is language and the ability to use it really, really well. I hope that you guys become those people who learn to use it really well and to use it to your advantage, and who gain that power through language, and that you use that power for good. I'll miss seeing your names crop up on my blackboard and at least imagining your faces. And I hope that you guys, if you're ever in the Sellersburg area, that you'll let me know. And I'll try to make myself available, and we can meet and chat. I wish you guys the absolute best in everything that you all do. And I hope that in the future, if you need anything, you'll reach out to me. Take care of yourselves. Happy writing now and always. Bye, guys.